Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It's Monday, May 3rd, and we're here for our first of two updates on the Westchester coronavirus spread. I'm joined, as I always am, by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, and we'll have the benefit of the visit by the Mayor of the Village of Mamaroneck, Tom Murphy, a little bit later in the program, as each of these updates occur twice a week. Mondays at 2 o'clock, Thursdays at 2 o'clock. We always invite one of the mayors or supervisors somewhere in our county to join us, talk a little bit about what's happening in their jurisdiction. Obviously, Westchester's a big county, and things that are happening in Yonkers are not the same thing in Peekskill or Pelham. So by having Mayor Murphy in today and others in past weeks, get a little local flavor for what it is we're facing as a county. We are going to go through the coronavirus numbers. We have a report on some things that have been changing at the state as we start to open up procedures. Ken Jenkins will cover that. And then we have a couple of other things that we want to highlight since we're with you for a few minutes. And one of the most important ones is International Firefighters Day. And we have some prominent representatives here in the county of our Department of Emergency Services and some other folks attached to the fire service. We're going to recognize them as part of our program today. So that's sort of the game plan. We'll go to the numbers first. We follow the New York State COVID tracker for these numbers. These are countywide numbers. We have a Westchester tracker that you can access through our website. It takes the same numbers that you see at the state level, breaks it down a little bit by municipality in terms of cases, active cases, and total cases. And then it also has vaccination information broken down, zip code, and a couple of other ways. But all of the information that we provide comes directly from the state of New York. Every single element, whether it's testing or vaccinations, all our information that is reported directly to the state, and then the state makes available to all of us to see this. So most of these things are available yourself online, but we want to summarize to give you a sense of where we are, what kind of progress we're making or not making. So the numbers that we have are current as of yesterday, Sunday, May 2nd, and it shows that we have 2,187 active cases of coronavirus in Westchester County at the present time. Now, that number specifically does not show up on the New York State tracker. That is a subtraction between all of the coronavirus cases pandemic to date, meaning over the 14 months of the pandemic. That number is on the tracker. That's 127,913 cases of coronavirus all the way through the whole pandemic, and we subtract from that number the number of cases that are 2 weeks old or older. So 2 weeks ago, our number was 125,726. The difference between the two numbers are basically the people that tested positive over the last 2 weeks, with a couple of exceptions, and that number is 2,187. A week ago, that same number was 3,208 active cases, and 2 weeks ago, that number was 4,219 cases. So from 4,200 down to 3,200 down to 2,100 over the last 2 weeks is a sign of the progress in the direction. It is a reduction in the amount of infections here in Westchester County at 2,187, and we've now had something like 14, 15, 16 straight days of reduced infection and reduced number of active cases, which is a good sign. The number of active cases tells you the breadth of the infection, how many people are affected by it overall. And I'll go back to where we were at our most recent peak, which was in the middle of the month of January. That's now almost 4 full months ago. We were at 11,500 cases. So from 11,500 up to 2 weeks ago, we got it all the way down to 4,200, and then now down to where we are today, 2,187. Actually, those numbers as of yesterday. After this report is over, the tracker may come up. It'll have different numbers on it, the state. Hopefully, you'll see a continued reduction. Now, the next number that's important is the number of people that are hospitalized, and that is an indicator of the depth of the infection. So breadth is how many, how sick are they? Usually if you're very sick, you wind up going to the hospital. If you're tested positive, but the disease doesn't really affect you that much, you're home, you work through it, you treat it at home, you don't go to the hospital. You go to the hospital if the symptoms are much more severe. Right now, the most recent number we have is as of Saturday, and we have 116 people who are hospitalized for COVID. That number compares the prior week to 131. 2 weeks ago was 150, and if you want to go back 3 weeks before that, we were at 192 people hospitalized. So that number has been dropping very dramatically, and that number in the middle of January 588 people hospitalized for COVID. That wasn't even close to the highest we ever had. When the pandemic started, at one point we had 1,200 people hospitalized for COVID here in Westchester County. So now the number is down to 116. That number has generally been dropping. It's been dropping by smaller increments in the last few days, but it's still dropping, and we think that's a good sign. And we have to assume that the lesser number of cases, lesser infections, and the lesser number of people hospitalized is because of the vaccinations. The more people that are vaccinated in the county, the less likely people will get the disease, or if they do get the disease, the less likely they're affected severely by the disease. So that is sort of the hopeful connection that we're making on these things. We have in the most difficult statistic to deal with, which is the number of people that have died because of coronavirus, the fatality numbers. I say this every single time, and it's repetitious, but I have to repeat it every single time. We do not treat people as statistics. If we lost one person in the last month, that one person would be important to the family that they live in, and it's important to their neighbors and their friends. So we don't minimize this. When we see numbers of fatalities that are dropping, we look at it not because we minimize the individual loss, but because we're looking for a trend line. And so the greater severity is not people who are just hospitalized, but people who die from COVID. And they generally track as people who are 60 years of age and older, but we do have fatalities at younger ages. Just today, I was at an event in New Rochelle that honored Captain Andrew DiMaggio, who's a captain in the New Rochelle Fire Department. He was involved in training across Westchester County, a real expert in all the rescue areas of the fire department. I knew him, met with him a few times over different issues back in the day, and he was a very strong-willed, very physically adept fellow. A younger man, did not reach the age of 60, and he succumbed to COVID a year ago. So this disease can affect people of all different types, and we don't really know exactly why one person is more vulnerable than the other. But in terms of the fatality numbers, at this point we have 2,258 people that have died from coronavirus. No one died overnight last night, and we now have days where we've had as little as 1 or 2 people with fatalities. Over the course of the last 7 days, we had 9 people who died through COVID. The number is actually a little bit better the week before that, where we lost 4 people in a week. But the numbers are low, and we hope that they get all the way down to 0. I'd love to be able to report to you that over the course of a 7-day period of time, we lost no one to COVID. And we're getting close to that number. We hope that'll be the case. But if you take a look at the overall sense of it, less total number of cases, less people hospitalized, less fatalities, it shows you that the infection at this stage of the game is receding. Now, we hope that's a permanent reality. We don't know that until we see what happens over time. So we track this, and in every report, we try to give you these numbers. If you go on the website for the county, you will see zip code information about vaccinations. We would give you more information if the state revealed those informations to us, but what information we get, we're happy to share publicly and as transparently as we can. In terms of the vaccination side of the equation, we have 4 locations in the county that do significant volumes of vaccination. We have plenty of pharmacies around the county that have vaccinated people. We have satellite or pop-up locations. We have one coming tomorrow at White Plains High School that the Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul, will be visiting. We have a number of those kind of pop-ups. We do some of them. The state does some of them. That adds to the number of people vaccinated. But the 4 major places, the county center first and foremost, the Yonkers Armory, and then 2 clinics that are run directly by the county. One is at the Community College Gymnasium at the Community College campus, which is on the Greenburgh-Mount Pleasant borderline. And then also here at our White Plains Public Health Clinic located on 134 Court Street in downtown White Plains. So those 4 facilities together have issued 338,220 vaccinations. Now, that could be a 1-shot or 2-shot vaccinations, depending on the individuals. The county center, which opened in January, has been open 7 days a week, 11 hours a day, and they have been constantly moving people through there. They've issued 232,000 vaccinations, and proportionally for the size of that facility, it's really a miraculous thing. And as I've heard from most people that have been vaccinated at the county center, they give high marks to the people that are operating at Westchester Medical Center as the healthcare partner at that location. The state is primarily the ones that are administering the flow through the building. County has had some role in it, and our county police department, public safety department takes care of the external, outside the building logistics, the free parking that we have at that location. But that center alone, 232,000 vaccinations. And to give you an idea of how much that is a day, today we have 2,400 vaccinations scheduled for the county center alone. 2,400 just today, just the county center. Our two clinics together combined 48,406 vaccinations to date, and the Yonkers Armory, which is a large enough facility to be somewhat closer to the county center in terms of volume, and they opened much later. They're open about a month and a half now. 56,855 vaccinations. So the total number in those four locations is 338,220. And then in addition to that, what we don't count pop-ups, local pharmacies, anything that's been done in hospitals or any other location. We are actively looking for additional satellite locations because we know that people will more likely get a vaccination in an area that's closer to their home. And we've used the satellite process to reach places elsewhere in the county. As you can see by these locations, White Plains, Yonkers, fairly large communities, and then the Greenburgh, Mount Pleasant corridor, not too far away from that side of the county. So we have to go into different communities. When Mayor Murphy comes to the microphone, we've done pop-ups at St. Thomas Episcopal Church in downtown Mamaroneck, doing that as a partnership with White Plains Hospital. We've done things in New Rochelle at different locations, at the library, at the New Rochelle Housing Authority. We were involved in one in Yorktown over a month ago, and there are other locations all across the county to complement the major vaccination centers that we have. And we're hopeful to do as many of those to reach some of the harder to reach people by geography. Now, to this point, we have the statistics we get from the state based on the fact that when you register, you give a zip code. And you give a zip code based on your home community, and that home community then gets tracked into the system, and those numbers come back. If you're in a Westchester zip code, whether you were vaccinated at Aqueduct or Potsdam or in our backyard, you're in the system, and they give us numbers back geographically. As of this week, and I think the numbers get updated on Tuesdays, 383,217 Westchester residents have completed their vaccine series. So they've had 2 shots of Moderna or 2 shots of Pfizer or 1 shot of J&J, and they've gone the 2 weeks subsequently to try to work it through your system, and you are considered fully vaccinated for the moment. That's 380,217 people, and that's out of a population, last census, 967,000 Westchester residents. I often use the million number because it's an easier percentage number. It skews a little lower than the actual number. If you have a smaller base, the percentage would be higher. But if you just do straight on a million, that's 38% of the population that's completed the series. And when you work off of the smaller base number of 967, you're at 40%. So 40% of Westchester County is fully vaccinated. There's an additional number of people that gets us to 510,203 people that have had at least 1 vaccine dose. And if you count having your first dose and you're in line for your second dose, assume you get your second dose, that would put us over 50% of our population being vaccinated, 52%. We are ahead of the state average. We're ahead of some of the neighboring areas. We're on the border of the Bronx. We're ahead of the Bronx in terms of vaccination numbers. There are some places certainly that are doing better than we are. And if you look at the United States, certain states are doing better than New York. But the bottom line is, here in Westchester County over this period of time, we believe we're reaching day by day a higher percentage of our population being vaccinated, and we believe that is the reason why we're seeing the reduction in the numbers of infection. And the more vaccinated, the less likely people get infected. The less infected, the more the society can open up more, because the mission here is to try to get back to normal. We wear a mask when we have to wear a mask. CDC just gave us some new guidelines. They've not yet been adopted by the New York State Department of Health, but I don't particularly prefer to wear a mask. I wear it because I think it's public health. If I wear the mask, I don't convey anything that I have to you or to anybody else in close proximity. But I like to get back to normal, and I think we'd all like to get back to something like normal. We're in the warmest time of the year. High school graduations are coming up. Ken will talk about some of these things in a second. Summer concerts in the park. I'll mention Mamaroneck Village. They've had a lovely concert series in Harbor Island Park on generally Sunday nights. They had to discontinue it last year because you couldn't do it during the pandemic, just like we couldn't do fireworks for the 4th of July. There's a lot of great fireworks at Harbor Island at the 4th of July. But we have to get through the pandemic. So the faster we get people vaccinated, the faster the numbers come down, then the more likely it is we get back to normal. And the faster we get back to normal, then we have the lives that we really want to live with our families. And it's not just a matter of government; it's a matter of individuals and having an enjoyable life, and not a life in which you're stuck on Zooms and in your basement and waiting for something to lift. So I'm next going to turn to the mayor of the Village of Mamaroneck, the Honorable Tom Murphy. Tom served as a village trustee in two separate cycles in Mamaroneck Village. His original service goes back almost 20 years when he was first on the board. And then he's also gone on to serve as a town councilman in the town of Mamaroneck, which is larger than the Village of Mamaroneck, and then now as mayor of the Village of Mamaroneck for the last number of years. And he's a friend of long standing. He's been a very dynamic leader in the Village of Mamaroneck, 17,000 people or so in the village. A lovely place. It's a place I've represented now for almost 30 years of my life. And it's a pleasure to share that village with the mayor of the village, Tom Murphy.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Ken, for allowing me this opportunity. The county and the state have been, instrumental in helping the village get through what we've had to get through in the past, year and 2 months. The village was hit very hard, very early, as was, a lot of people in the epicenter, kind of in the New Rochelle, down south area. We now have probably over 10 or 11% of our population has had COVID. Those numbers, as George pointed out, are coming down every week, and the infection rate seems to be lessening, so we're very hopeful about that. Through the help of the county and the amazing employees and volunteers that the Village of Mamaroneck has, we've really looked out for each other in our community. We went out of our way to make sure that those who don't have the resources to get through an emergency like this were helped. We gave out hundreds of gallons of hand sanitizer. We gave out close to 50,000 face masks to folks who otherwise might not be able to afford it, or that cost would have been a large imposition in their lives. And we believe that that's kind of tried to hold the infection rate down. But we've also been instrumental, the village and volunteer organizations in the community, the Largemont Mamaroneck Hunger Task Force, the Coalition for Community. They've been feeding people every Tuesday at Columbus Park, giving out groceries to hundreds of families, more than they would usually give out, because the economic circumstances that have been created by COVID. And I'm very proud of us as a community that we came together to do that. The village working in partnership with the not-for-profits to serve the people who needed help the most. Because if governments aren't looking at and looking out for who needs help the most, then what's the point of all this? And I know the county feels that way, and I'm sure the state government feels that way too, and I'm happy to be a part of that. One of the things that we're doing in the Village of Mamaroneck is we want to honor the folks who work for the village, who have put their health, their time, and their commitment into serving this community in very difficult situations. We have an all-volunteer fire department that had to respond to a lot of situations where they didn't know the health or the situation they were walking into. Obviously, our police department has dealt with many people with COVID and COVID-related issues, but even down to sanitation, parks. All of these people have gone above and beyond the call of duty. The administrative, Jerry Barbario, our village manager, has sprung into action and really helped the people of our community. So what we're doing in the Village of Mamaroneck is that we are having a memorial to all workers who have done so much to help this community survive, to keep government running on a day-to-day basis, even though there were quarantines and there were sicknesses in their own homes and sicknesses that they had to deal with personally. But they persevered, they adapted, and they went above and beyond the call of duty. And it's one of the honors of my elected career, such as it was, as George has pointed out. I've been kicked out of a lot of respectable governments in this community, and here I am as mayor of the Village of Mamaroneck. But it's really been an honor to watch the employees of our community spring into action and to show how much they care for the community that they serve. And if you live in the village of Mamaroneck, you should be very grateful to the people who work for the village of Mamaroneck. They have really gone above and beyond the call of duty, and our volunteers, especially our volunteer fire department, has really sprung into action and helped every way that they could. And I just want to finish by thanking George and Ken and all of Westchester County government for being partners. As the sign says, we are united together. We go forward together, and we all work together as a team to benefit our residents. And Catherine Parker, our county legislator, has also been instrumental in helping us get what we need. And I want to thank them all. And I want to look forward to moving forward to getting past this and to hopefully getting back to normalcy, as George pointed out. I know people aren't going to get vaccinated because Tom Murphy told them to get vaccinated. But if you have vaccination hesitancy, please speak to your doctor. Speak to a medical provider that you really trust and get their opinion. We can't force people to get vaccinated, but it is the road back to normalcy. And it is the road back to protecting people who can't protect themselves. Some people can't get vaccines because of medical conditions they have. Cancer survivors or people with autoimmune problems. And they are locked in their homes until we all get a herd immunity. So please, let's look out for each other and let's keep the ball rolling. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Okay, that's Mayor Tom Murphy from the Village of Mamaroneck. Very happy to have him here. We also want to thank the other members of the Village Board, Kelly Wenstrup, Dan Natchez, Nora Lucas, and Victor Taffor, all of whom serve as well in the village under Mayor Murphy's leadership. You mentioned Jerry Barbieri, who is the village administrator. And I have a particular soft spot for Mamaroneck Village in my heart. Most folks know that I live in the city of Rye, have lived there for a long period of time, served in Rye City and in public office as well as in a lot of not-for-profits areas, and I also talk about my youth in Mount Vernon. So those two communities are places I've lived and loved. Mamaroneck would then be the next most closest community. My father worked there during his work career at Beach Point Club. Many times I'd ride with him in the morning and he'd drop me off and I'd play at Harbor Alley with whoever was there to play back in the 1960s. And the first place that I ever sought public office outside of the city of Rye was at the village of Mamaroneck, village of Larchmont. And so over a long period of time, I've come to know the people of the community, the streets of the community, and the assets. And it is really a lovely community, Tom, that you're leading. And hopefully as we pull us all out together from Peekskill, Pelham, Poundridge, Pleasantville. I'll try to be alliterative here. Every corner of the county. This is a very wonderful county. I'm a very lucky man to have this opportunity, and hopefully that's the partnership that we create as we work and go forward together. One update on a couple of other issues, COVID related, and I'll have Ken come on to touch on some statewide issues. We're launching a campaign apropos to dealing with vaccine hesitancy to partner with the New York Knicks to encourage young people to get vaccinated. We have a cohort of people who have not yet embraced vaccination. They tend to be younger, tend to be somewhat more male than female, and we haven't opened up vaccination other than from 16 to 18 with the Pfizer product only because of what's been tested. We'll see what medical science tells us in the weeks to come, if there's an ability to extend by age or by type of vaccination. But the campaign we're launching ties into the younger generation and their parents would be younger adults, people in their 30s and 40s. I kicked COVID to the curb. Got a great graphic that involves a soccer ball, and we're using that as a backpack flyer that goes out through the schools back to the parents at home. There's a public service announcement with Ossining native Obi Toppin and Nick Emmanuel Quickly, and we're very proud of the Knicks this year. We've had some rough years, us Knicks fans, but the Knicks now are playing great basketball. They look like they're heading for the playoffs. Hope I didn't jinx it. And these young stars, and they have a lot of very young players, and they're very community-minded. And Obi grew up in Ossining, I believe, and so they were all very anxious to help get a message out to other young people, and particularly young people of color, that vaccination is the right thing to do. We have a video along those lines that we'd like to share with you now.
What's going on, guys? Just got vaccinated.
Just got the shot.
You're not only helping yourself, but you're helping all of those people that are around you.
The more people that get vaccinated, the faster we can get back to normal times.
We want to be part of the community. We want to enjoy our families and our loved ones. We feel it's the responsible thing to do.
Everybody go get vaccinated. Stay safe.
It's the best line of defense against the virus.
Y'all go get this shot. Mayor quickly told you.
Along with this video, we're also conducting an aggressive social media campaign to try to get out this message in as many places as we can to young people. We have a town hall scheduled on May 13th. That's coming up not too far from now, where we'll answer questions that young people may have and partner with local schools, with libraries, to get this information out directly to that quotient of people. You know, I was a teenager once, not recently, a long time ago, but I can very well relate to the way I felt in my teens and in my 20s, where, and perhaps it's true for women as well as for men, but as a young man, you feel invincible. You don't think physically anything is going to slow you down. You're at the peak of your abilities in sports, and you're healthy, you know, unless you break a bone. You don't necessarily feel that these things are going to affect you. But you're not invincible, and COVID-19 does not pick targets that are only in a certain cohort. They can affect anybody, anywhere across the spectrum. They can affect young people, and there are stories of young people getting severely affected and some who've died because of it. So the message is very simple. No, we're not indestructible at any age. Get vaccinated. That's the best path that we have. And for people who are young, you've got a great future ahead of you. When you're 20 years old, you may not realize how many more mountains you can still climb, and not just physical mountains, but things that you can achieve in your life. And you want to be around for those things. And if the vaccination is the path out of this thing, then we encourage you to do that. In the beginning of our efforts on vaccination, we started with the vulnerable populations, and we followed the state because the state opened up vaccinations to people who worked in certain fields, first responders, healthcare professionals, and then police, fire, and EMS people. And then we started with the age categories, 75, and then down to 65, and then 60. And many of those older populations have been served. Now the focus, 16 to 25 years old, is opened up. It's only been a couple of weeks where we've opened it up to people 16 and above. And so hopefully we'll go from there. If you want to schedule an appointment at the Westchester Community College in Valhalla, you can visit us at westchestergov.com/health. You can schedule an appointment at any of the state-operated facilities. That would be the Yonkers Armory and the County Center in Westchester, or for that matter, the Javits Center and some of the other places that are around. That's a different website, covid19vaccine.health.ny.gov. And there's local clinics and pharmacies that provide this. You can find out a vaccine tool. We'll put up all these different, this is a mishmash of them. We'll put these up below our picture here, and you can jot them down. Or you can call the county health department at 995-7425, and they'll give you all the details. Now, in my earlier days of sales and marketing, I would say we're running a promotion. So we're running a promotion. We're trying to get you to take your mom for a vaccine for Mother's Day. Now, not necessarily on Mother's Day proper. We're doing this the day before Mother's Day so she can be properly vaccinated and you can feel good about getting mom healthy if mom hasn't had a vaccine, and you can get one yourself. We're doing this at the Westchester Community College. That's the county-run center located on Grasslands Road in Valhalla, easily accessed from the Sprain, not far from the Bronx River Parkway, 287. It's a very easy-to-reach location. The gym there is very large, a lot of elbow room and space. That's where I was vaccinated when I was there. You can make an appointment. You can go online. We're going to show you the website. Every time I read these things off, I may not get them perfectly right, but you'll see where you can click on to with New York Gov. And you're showing mom that you love her. You want mom to stick around. We all want our moms, mine's gone, but we all want our moms to be around as long as possible. So show you love her. Buy her some flowers for Mother's Day. Take her out on Mother's Day. But on the day before Mother's Day, do her a favor and get a vaccination if she hasn't done that. And we'll be happy to help you do that. And we do have some gift bags for mothers while supplies last. It's always nice to go back and touch what I used to do for a living. Now we're going to talk about what the state's been doing. The state has been opening up many of the protocols from things that were announced before. We've seen some changes. Just in the last week, the Governor Cuomo's announced, so I'm going to ask Ken Jenkins to cover some of those changes. And you may want to put out a pencil and write these down, because if you're thinking about where we were last week, this is different. This is all different now. So, Ken?
Thanks, George. And certainly, as the county executive has been mentioning all throughout the pandemic, the state is the one that sets the guidelines, and we execute those guidelines based on what the state says. But today, Governor Cuomo, Governor Lamont, and Governor Murphy from our neighbors in New Jersey and Connecticut announced that there would be several changes that were happening as things begin to open up. As the county executive said, between the 50+% of people that have had more than one, at least one shot in Westchester County, and those that are fully vaccinated. So, hold on, because there's a lot of things that are changing. First, the big thing that we announced, different than what we talked about last week, that beginning on May 10th, that there's going to be modifications to move up the amount of individuals from the 250 outside limit right now to 500 people. And that starts on May 10th. That will be able to move outside with masks on still. All of these particular announcements that the governor stated today still require the utilization of masks. Except when you're eating in one of those great facilities that you should take your mom or a mother that you know and you love out on Mother's Day to take advantage of. New York City, the subway, the MTA subway in New York City will begin 24-hour service, resuming on May 17th. So as everyone recognized through the pandemic, the subway was actually shut down for various hours for cleaning. Then it reduced down to 5 o'clock in the morning where they were keeping the subway closed, not overnight. Now, 24-hour service. So for those of the individuals that have to do night work, that work in the various hours and helping to continue to support all of our facilities, that's going to start back up on May 17th. Large-scale outdoor venues can increase their spectator capacity on May 19th. So a lot of these things are going to happen on May 19th, from 20% to 33%. They are still going to require, at this moment in time, and as the county executive pointed out, they are going to continue to be modified as the rates of infection go down, the vaccinations go up, and there'll be some additional benefits for those folks that are fully vaccinated or have tested out of those facilities, tested out to make sure that they are able to attend those facilities. There will be a lifting of basically almost all of the restrictions that we've had locally for restaurants, for dining, for sports and gym, and et cetera. So we can also go from 50% to 75% beginning on May 15th. So offices can increase their capacity. Gaming and casinos can increase the capacity from 25% to 50% on May 15th. The gym and the fitness centers outside New York City can go up to 50% for some of us to work off that COVID-19. Again, social distancing, masks, health screenings, and all those protocols remain in effect. There are going to be, again, for specific arenas, especially those that are in the outdoor areas for concerts, baseball games, et cetera, that there's going to be availability for, if you are fully vaccinated and you can prove that in your cohort that you can sit together. Again, you're going to be able to mask up, but everywhere else, the social distancing things are going to be impactful, meaning that you have to have 6 feet between those groups of individuals. So whether you're going to the Knicks game or whether you're going to a Mets game, or if you go to the Yankees games or anything like that, that's going to be another availability for the increased the restrictions to be reduced and to us to get back to close to normal. Again, the mask is still going to be required, but it is really good news that the 3 states together, because it didn't make sense for the folks in Portchester that they jumped over the line to Greenwich, they could do something different, go out to a restaurant or anything like that. So it's good continuing working together with our partners with the 3 states to make these moves. Again, vaccinations are the key for us to continue to do that. Winning that race on vaccinations, everyone should get those vaccinations, and whether they take advantage of the workshops or kicking the virus to the curb, making sure that we all do these things together and always continue to mask up. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you very much, Ken. And of course, the county, as we reported last week, is doing everything we can in the areas where we have direct control, primarily in our recreation program, to open up recreational opportunities. We launched Bicycle Sunday this past Sunday, yesterday. It was a great day and a good turnout out there. By the end of this month, this now being the month of May, we expect to have our 2 beaches at Playland and Croton Point Park opened. We're getting ready for June openings of our 4 pools and also Playland Amusement Park, and we're hoping that we'll have a Glen Island announcement that would be well received if we get the authority. We're still waiting, and hopefully, again, I'm not jinxing it by mentioning it on TV. There's a few other things we want to mention that we think are worthwhile, not COVID-related. We'll do them quickly. This begins this month, May 1st, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And there's a long designation of this, goes back almost 30 years. It was chosen to commemorate the first Japanese immigrants who came to the United States in May of 1843, and 150 years ago when this started in 1993, as well as to mark the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, which happened in May of 1869. These are historical facts, but I think sometimes it's important to understand that the immigration of Asian Americans to this country is not of recent vintage. It goes back a long time, and there are people who've been contributing to this American mosaic over an extended period of time. We are all sons and daughters of immigrants, or almost all of us. I am, and most others are. This area of Asian and Pacific Island includes a massive number of communities all throughout the Pacific, and then, of course, the prominent countries of Asia, Japan, Korea, China, Southeast Asia, India as a South Asian country, and others. And there'll be a lot of different events this month. Different organizations will hold things, flag raising, various types of festivals done within the context of social distancing and what have you. But we want to make sure that our friends who fall into that category are well recognized for that. In a couple of days, our friends who trace their heritage to Mexico will celebrate Cinco de Mayo, which is an Independence Day in Mexico. And in due time, as we always do, we recognize the Irish community, the Italian-American community, the Jewish community, the Muslim community. Our Muslim brothers are still going through the month of Ramadan with fasting and contemplation and so many different things that we take great pride in as Americans, that we are one country, but we're a country that's made up of lots of different pieces of that mosaic. So for this month, that's an important designation. It is also Mental Health Awareness Month throughout the country, and this is an important situation. We have tried very hard in Westchester County government, because of our Department of Community Mental Health, to provide certain services. Commissioner Michael Orth, Deputy Commissioner Joe Glazer have a host of different programs, some of which during this month will be spotlighted. But we know that mental health is an illness that has a stigma attached to it, and we want to take the stigma away. We want to deal with those who have these needs, these health needs, mental health needs, try to promote wellness and resiliency, and do it in an intelligent and appropriate way. There are ways that you can be helpful in this process, and we just want to make sure that these opportunities are clear to all of us. We have a video we'd like to share for your chance to view. I think we have to understand, both specifically because of the pandemic and more generally, that mental health issues are health issues. There's always been a stigma attached to them, and there shouldn't be a stigma.
National Mental Health Awareness Month really helps us focus on the importance of our mental health. Just as we stress the importance of physical health, mental health is just as important. So doing things that are mindful, that really take care of our mental health and our emotional wellness. So we're encouraging during the month to really promote that and to practice it throughout the year.
The most important thing is that you acknowledge it if you do have an issue, and you are honest about it, and not concerned that the act of seeking help somehow puts you in a negative light. You're trying to be healthy, and if you can address it in that fashion, there are many people out there who can meet you halfway and help you get to a better place.
It's so important that we first of all step back and just be mindful of how we're feeling, whether it's good or bad, how we approach our day. And there are many different ways of practicing that. Some people use journaling, some people use mindfulness. We've also been fortunate in Westchester to work with our spiritual leaders to really promote mental health within a congregation, for example. So there's so many different parts throughout our life that we can practice good emotional health. And again, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, going towards some of the things that work for you, but also seeking some other assistance if really needed.
I think the best thing to do is to reach out for a professional to help you go through these situations, to help you understand how you can get to a better stage of mental health if that's possible.
In Westchester County, we're fortunate because we do have lots of different services that folks can access. If you contact our office at 914-995 5220, we can provide referral information or other resources. And due to the pandemic, we also set up an emotional wellness line that's also available at 914-995-1900, and we can assist with multiple things.
This is a complex society. It's difficult for any of us to sort of manage all the elements of our lives, but it can be done. And there's no shame in asking for help, and there's no shame in receiving help. It gets you to a better place. Mental Health Awareness Month is a nationwide effort to address and overcome the stigma that's associated with mental health needs. We know that 1 in 5 people will experience a mental health illness during their lifetime, but everyone faces challenges in life that can impact their mental health, especially now as we go through a pandemic, as we try to pull out of this pandemic. So there's a host of these different programs. You can look at the tweets that are coming out, Tweet a Day for May in our mental health organization. On Twitter, we're at Westchester DCMH, and Facebook, we're at Westchester DCMH, and we're on Instagram, and probably about 5 more platforms that I'm not familiar with. But those are the 3 that I'm aware of, and we're certainly trying to communicate in the modern way of social media. So let me close our conversations before we have any questions with International Firefighters Day. And earlier today I mentioned that we were in New Rochelle to honor Captain Andrew DiMaggio, and that's only one of many events that are happening, not just in Westchester, but across the country to honor our firefighters. The day was established just about 20 years ago. It came after an incident that happened in Australia, but every day firefighters go out and risk their lives on any call to try to protect property and life of the people that they serve in these communities. And I think any of us who've ever been proximate to a fire realizes the kind of bravery it takes to run to the fire when all of the rest of us as civilians run away from the fire as fast as we can. There are many services and associations within the fire community that comprises Westchester's group. I want to make sure I read them properly and get them all in. Westchester County Fire Chiefs Association, Westchester County Volunteer Firemen's Association, Westchester County Association of Fire Districts, Westchester County Career Fire Chiefs Association, the Westchester County Department of Emergency Services, that's ours, the County Fire Coordinator, Westchester Fire Advisory Board, and all of those things. And this year marks the 40th anniversary of the Cause and Origin Team, which was formed by the Arson Task Force back in 1981. That team is made up of 32 New York State certified fire investigators who are volunteer firefighters or police officers. They're assigned to different zones. We're in Zone 1 here in White Plains. They work with multiple agencies, local fire departments, local police departments, and they do the investigation of a fire to determine the cause. If the cause is arson, obviously there's a criminal element to that. But if the cause of the fire has something to do with the way we operate, live our lives, and we want to correct those behaviors to avoid the fires happening in other settings and circumstances. So it's very important for us to understand that there is tremendous bravery involved in firefighting and personal skills and training. There is equipment that's necessary, and many of our communities spend quite a bit of money to make sure that they have the most modern equipment at hand, and not just the obvious things you see, the fire trucks, but all of the other material and devices that go into proper firefighting, and to be able to help us sleep in comfort. Those of us who are not in the firefighting profession, we sleep easily at night because these men and women are out there and prepared at a moment's notice, a bell, a call, to respond to a scene where they may see something fully engaged, and they will go in to save life, and they will certainly do what they can to save property. And this is, it's really an amazing sacrifice. It is more than a career, it's a calling. And I've had relatives in my family that have been professional firefighters, some volunteer firefighters, and it is, it's not even a department. It's a family. You can feel it, when you interact with it. The connection that people have who have this as a common commitment, and they serve people without thought of their own safety, and we really respect them. And on this day, we want to recognize them. So I do have a proclamation from our office. I'm going to invite up here Chief William Dingy, who is the Chief of Fire Services and County Fire Coordinator, Chief Lucy Labriola Cuff, who's Chief of Fire Training. I'm going to pull out, though she doesn't want to be identified, Susan Spear, who's our Deputy Commissioner for Emergency Services. She works alongside our Acting Commissioner, Richard Wishney, and these are all terrific people who have done a lot of work, and they represent literally dozens of other people, both in our department and in other departments, that put forth this tremendous effort. So, Bill, I'm going to give you this proclamation. By the way, Bill is also a pretty mean bagpipe player. I saw him this morning. He was in kilts, and they did Amazing Grace and just amazing things. So, on behalf of a grateful county, please accept this, and someone's got to accept it. And each of you share a few thoughts as well. Let's tilt it down a little bit so I don't get the glare. I have learned something during my tenure here. Very good. So, Bill, say a few words, and then you can swap the proclamation back and forth.
Thank you very much, County Executive. On behalf of the career and volunteer members of our 58 fire departments here in the county, we will accept that proclamation, and thank you very much for your appreciation and notice of what we do on a daily basis. In particular, as the mayor and the county executive mentioned in this broadcast so far, it's been a very interesting 14 years. We've lost a number of members along the way. Our departments have had to drastically change how they did business and operated, from the way we responded to the way we trained and also conducted our normal business. So everybody came together, as the fire service does always. We adapt and overcome, and we rose to the occasion to provide the level of service you and the County of Westchester expect. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Bill. Lucy.
We just want to thank you for this great honor. We have the 58 fire departments in the county that trust us in training them, and we just like to give that back to them, and we'll hang this proudly in our training center so that everybody can see it when they come train with us. So thank you, County Executive.
Thank you, Lucy. And I'm going to ask Deputy Commissioner Spear.
Thank you so much, County Executive, Deputy County Executive. We're very grateful to you for this proclamation today, and thanking our local firefighters on International Firefighters Day. This past year has been especially difficult for our firefighters. As things were being canceled, our firefighters were on duty every single day. So we thank you for recognizing that. We thank you for respecting them, appreciating them, and please remember, everybody out there, these are your heroes. These are the people who run in when you're running out. Please thank them when you see them. They work for you to keep you safe every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you all very much, and do send our best wishes back to everybody else at DES when you return there, including Commissioner Wishney. Very good. So we've had a chance to talk about International Firefighters Day and some of the other monthly designations we've had. We've gone over our numbers. We've talked about the Village of Mamaroneck. Now we'll see if we have any questions from the press.
Yes, we have
Catherine
one.
Chaffee.
We have one question from David Proper from the Journal News. He asks you, County Executive, are you surprised vaccine demand dried up as quickly as it did?
David Proper from the Journal News, LoHUD. No, I'm not surprised that there's been a drop in the demand. We knew that the most vulnerable populations, which were generally people of a certain age and older, were in tremendous demand for the product. And as the product rolled out very slowly, we went through a period of time, it seemed like yesterday, where people were frantic to be able to get a vaccination, and they were concerned in January they might have to wait until March to get a vaccination. And all of a sudden, we've gone through February, March, and April. We've had now increasing supplies, so it has satisfied most of that urgent demand. And again, the urgent demand I would estimate are from people who fall in the demographic category most vulnerable to the disease. Now we're at a position where, since that group of people have been satisfied to the greater extent, not completely, we now have a group of folks who are not vaccinated who have less of a natural demand. As I've said before, they're younger. They may have other reasons why they're not particularly comfortable doing it. And I think we have to recognize, well, some of it may be a matter of age and perceived health and vulnerability, as I said earlier. Some of it does come from communities of color, where people do not have the confidence necessarily in the system, although I think that's getting better every day. And then there are people who hold certain philosophical or ideological points of view, and they view the vaccination process as part of some larger issue that really is part of what divides our country on philosophy and politics. How we overcome some of these things is within our power to respond to. Some of them are not. And I would be candid in saying that for those people who have that philosophical objection or political objection, I'm not a spokesperson that can convince them. It will take people whose positions they agree with to step forward and say, yes, let's take this particular issue of vaccinations off the ideological table. We can argue about other things, but we can't argue about public health. But it will take people who are in sync with their political philosophies to be able to convince them to do that. As Tom Murphy said, we're not in the business at this point of mandating people to do things. We'll wait and see what the state does. The state has superior authority over the counties and local governments. But my hope is, David, that we're going to continue to see progress given the demand that we have, get us up into the 60 percentile range, and then try to use creative strategies to add to that number day after day. That's what we're trying to do, certainly with young folks. That's what we're going to try to do with people of color, and hopefully make the best possible effort. And so I'm not surprised. I think we anticipated this happening. We've now reached that point at which the demand and the supply factor is about equal, and we're going to start to see a tip the other way where the supply exceeds the demand. And I would say there are countries all across the world where the demand is still very, very high. And for those Americans who think they can avoid taking the shot, we may help our brothers overseas if they don't choose to take it here in the United States. I would hope everybody would do it and we'd move on to a better place. Any other questions, Catherine? Only question. If there are other members of the press that have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Catherine Chaffee, our Director of Communications, 995-2932. I want to thank you very much for watching. We'll be back again on Thursday at 2 o'clock to give you the end of the week numbers. We've continued to see a drop. We're hopeful that those numbers, as they drop, might put us under 100 hospitalizations, might put us under 2,000 active cases. We may or may not hit those numbers by Thursday. Let's hope we do, because it'll be a sign of continued progress. And for all of us, be safe, make intelligent, prudent decisions, and we'll see you on Thursday at 2 o'clock. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thanks for watching.